and then I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right. So as you can see, this presentation is about using spreadsheets for tables and charts, um, such as Microsoft Excel. So we'll go ahead and get started. So probably be helpful if you have your computer open, your laptop or whatever, to open up Microsoft Excel if you do have Excel. That is the software we will be using. If you don't have Excel, no worries. You can always use the free version, which is available at office.com, or you can use other similar spreadsheet software such as Google Sheets. Just keep in mind if you're using something like Google Sheets that some of the menus are going to look different. Some of the formulas might be slightly different, but the basic functionality will be similar. Okay. So if you have Excel open, usually when you click the Excel icon, it'll just open up a blank spreadsheet. But if not, please go to File, New to open up a blank spreadsheet. Okay, so we're going to go through some of the basics of Excel and spreadsheet terminology, just to make sure that we all have the vocabulary we need before we start talking about making charts and graphs. Okay, so spreadsheet documents are made of the following basic elements: cells, columns, rows, and we will review what these elements look like on a document together. So a cell is a single container or box that holds data. Data can be characters, numbers, formulas, etc. A cell's name is a combination of its row and column. You can think of it as the cell's coordinates. In the screenshot, you'll see that the cell is highlighted is in column A, columns being vertical, so this is column A. I'll just use my fake laser pointer here. So yeah, this is column A and row 1. So rows are horizontal, columns are vertical. So based on that, the cell name is A1, column first, then row. So cell A1. And the data inside cell A1 is a string, a sentence that says this is cell A1. Okay. Alrighty. So now we're going to be talking about ranges of cells. A range is a block of cells that you select. In most cases, a range is rectangular in shape, but irregular ranges can be used for advanced functions. But since this is just the basics, we're going to stick with rectangular ranges. By default, a range is named by its uppermost top left cell and its lowermost bottom right cell, or if it's just a range with a single column, the bottom cell. A colon, so just the two dots, separates the name of the first cell in the range and the last cell in the range to create the range's name. So in the example to the left, the highlighted range is called A1 through B5. Okay, so that's range A1 through B5. You can say through anytime you see the colon there. So that's because this, let me just get my laser pointer. That's the cells that are highlighted here. So the top leftmost is cell A1, bottom rightmost is cell B5. Hopefully that makes sense. It's pretty straightforward. But if you do have questions, feel free to type it in the chat or just unmute yourself and say, hey, AJ, got a question. Okay, so now we'll get into things that are a little more interesting, such as tables. So spreadsheets, as we know, are used to organize data. A popular way of doing this within a spreadsheet is called a table. And you can think of a table as kind of a miniature version of the spreadsheet itself. So like a spreadsheet, tables contain rows and columns, and the individual cells can be used to hold discrete or individual pieces of data. Usually a table will have a header row that explains the type of data contained within each column or each row. So the header row here, in this screenshot here, you'll see in column A, the header row says last name. Column B, first name. Column C, preferred name. Column D, gender. Column E, country of origin. So our header row explains the type of data that follows in the column. Okay. You can use the sorting feature under the data tab, or once you create a table in Excel, you can use it to organize the information in your table. So we'll look at an example together here. I'll stop sharing my slides and I'll open up an Excel document. Okay, so here's our very basic spreadsheet that contains just a range of cells. In this case, we're highlighting cells A1 through C5. But let's say we wanted to turn this into a table. So what we can do is we can highlight our range here. And then you'll see up on the home ribbon, there's an option here to format as table. So we'll go ahead and do that. And you'll see most of this is just aesthetic looks, but you'll want to pick something that's easy for the people that are going to be looking at your table to read. So we'll pick something that's not too fancy, not too crazy here. Okay. And we'll click table of headers. Okay. All right. So you can see now, at least aesthetically, in terms of looks, it's been formatted, and it also has these drop downs, which you can use to sort. It looks a little strange because in our header row, we just have the same information that we had before. So, but if this was a real table with real information, we could put a label for our header row. We'll just keep it very basic here. Column A, column B, and column C. Obviously, this is just fake data. It's not really anything meaningful, but if you had information about people's names or data from like a laboratory report, you would want to make sure that your header row has information that's actually useful, for example, last name. I'm just going to change some of our data in here, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to show you kind of what the sort feature looks like. All right. So you can see when you click this little arrow here, sorry, I'm just letting some people into the waiting room. When you see this little arrow here, you can use it to actually sort the information in your table. So you can sort it smallest to largest, and it's already sorted that way. Or let's say we wanted to flip it around and sort largest to smallest. So we flip it around, and you can see, even though we're sorting by the information in column A, that the associated information in columns B and column C moves with it. So obviously this is no longer cell B5, it's cell B2, but because we sorted the information, it's all been basically gone from descending order based on column A, or ascending order on column A to descending order in column A. So all of the information that was in the rows moved with it. And then we want to change it back to how it was. Go sort smallest to largest. And we now have, you'll see the information for row 5 moved along with it. So it's now back in its proper place. Again, this is more useful when you have data that you're actually using for an assignment, a project, an experiment for a lab, that sort of thing. I'll show you what a formatted table looks like in another document. I'll just stop sharing this one. Okay. All right. So you'll see now we have some information that's a little bit more meaningful. We still have our table, has our header row with family name, given name, preferred name, gender, country of origin, highest level of education, academic credentials received, etc. So this would be information like if you were doing a survey, for example, where you were polling different people, you were getting their names, you're finding out their gender, where they're from, and what their level of education is. And you'll see we have some fake responses, except yours truly, I'm real, I promise. And then the information associated with that person. So for me, has my last name, my given name, my preferred name or my nickname, gender, country of origin, and then my education, okay, as well as academic credentials I've received. And then there's some questions, what I think is useful or not useful when it comes to higher education. So right now, it's not sorted in any particular order. I think it's just in terms of the information that came in from the survey. But let's say I wanted to sort it, for example, by alphabetical order. So I could go to sort A to Z here. And you'll see now the information is sorted alphabetically by last name. In this case, the first person here would be Amelia, last name Delia, and then myself, then Frost, Kringle, Smith. And all the information associated with that entry moved with it based on how we sorted. Or let's say I wanted to sort by country of origin. Again, you could do A to Z or Z to A, doesn't really matter. And then you'll see now the information is sorted based on where people are from. So I'm the only person from Canada, so I'm at the top. There's someone from Germany, someone from the UK, and then a couple entries from the US right there. All right, so that's some ways that tables can be really useful to kind of organize data and then arrange it in a way that's helpful to you to see certain trends or certain information that might be helpful for the project or assignment you're doing. Okay, so go back to our slides here. Again, if you do have, well, before I do, I'll just check our, don't see any questions in the chat box, okay? But if you do have questions, feel free to tell them or just don't worry about interrupting me. If you want to unmute yourself, that's totally okay. We should like to keep things casual here at the ELI. All right. I'm putting this reminder in here, not because this is for an assignment or anything, but you do want to get into this habit, if you haven't already, where you're regularly saving information. I've learned from bad experience when I was in university what it's like to spend hours on something and then to forget to save it, and you've lost all that work. It's a very unpleasant, sad feeling. Get very frustrating. So it's always a good idea to save your progress regularly, every 10 to 15 minutes at least is what I would recommend. Go to File, Save. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Or on your keyboard, you can type Control S. So hold down the Control key and the S key, and that will save it. Pick whatever name you want, like Excel Workshop Practice would be fine. And yeah, going forward, if you're on a Windows machine, typing Control S is probably the fastest way to save. If you're on a Mac, I think it's like Option S or something. I can't remember. I haven't used the Mac in a while, but it's something like that. If newer versions of Excel and Microsoft Office have an auto save feature, which is even more helpful. So you don't even have to worry about pressing save. It'll just save it every time you make a change, which is great. Okay. So part 2, formulas and counting data. So in this section, we're going to learn how to use basic formulas, sometimes called functions. So first, a quick review of what formulas are. Formulas are used to perform actions or obtain information from data contained in a cell or a range of cells. There are hundreds of different standard formulas in Excel. But some commonly used formulas include sum, so adding things together, average, finding the average value from a range, count, figuring out how many numbers there are of something, count A, and count if. I'll explain what the difference is between all the different count functions in a moment, but they are all useful. So let's review some of them together. So I won't really go through sum and average because I think that's self-explanatory to most people. So I'm going to focus on counting data because that's especially useful if you're doing like a survey assignment, for example. So the standard count formula is used to count ranges of cells containing numbers. Count A is used to count cells within a range that are not empty. Letting someone in here. So yeah, count A is used to count cells within a range that are not empty. They can contain words, a string of characters, any other type of data. It doesn't have to be numbers. And then count if is used to count cells within a range that contains specific strings of characters. So quote marks are used to specify the exact string you're looking for, while quote marks with asterisks, with this little star symbol, are a wildcard and can be used to find cells that contain the part of the string specified. So I'll show you an example in a minute. It's a little hard just reading what they do. I find it's easier to show what it does in practice. So if you just bear with me. I'll stop my sharing here and go back to one of our spreadsheets. Okay. All right, so first we'll try our basic count formula. So count is for, like I said, counting a range of cells that contain numerical values, numbers. So anytime you're typing a formula, you always start with the equal sign and then the name of the formula. So in this case, it's count. And then you want to put brackets. And this is where you want to select the range of cells that you want the formula to count. So I highlight that range. In this case, because it's a table, it's actually telling us it's in that table and what the column name is. And then we use a close bracket to indicate that's all the only range that we want to count. Let's see if this works. Yes, okay. So you'll see our value here is 4. And that's because we have 4 cells, 1, 2, 3, 4, that contain numbers. For a small table like this, it's probably not helpful because you can easily see, yes, I have 4 entries there. But if you have a giant table, a giant range of information, the count formula is a good way of keeping track of how many entries you have. So we're going to try something here. We'll see if we can use our count formula on column B. So equals count, highlight the range, close bracket, 0. You might think, well, that's odd because I know there's information there. But remember, the count formula is only for cells that contain just a number. If it's a number plus anything else, like a character or whatever, it's not going to count it. So we need to use a different formula. In this case, we want to use formula count A. I'm not sure what the A stands for. I have a feeling it's count anything. But if you know the real answer, feel free to tell me. Okay, and that gives us the correct answer, so 4. So if you're ever counting a range of cells and it's something that's besides straight numbers, you want to make sure you use count A. Now, count if is the interesting one. And I use this a lot when I'm tabulating information from student meetings. So count if, you can see with the if qualifier there, is where we're counting cells that contain certain information. So like any other formula, we need to make sure we have our range. Okay, column C, great. But then we need the criteria. And in this case, because we're working with strings of characters, we want to use a string and quote marks to designate that it's a string of characters. We want to find that information. So let's say I want to count all of the cells that have this string C3. So I'll put C3 in quote marks, close bracket, see if this works. Ooh, it didn't work. Okay, let's try that again. C3. I think what I need to do is I need to use my asterisk for wildcards. Okay, so I think C3, yes, that's right. So if it was only C3, if there was no other string in it, if it didn't say this is cell C3, it would have counted it, but we'll test that. So if I want to find any cell in that range that contains that bit of information, C3, then I have to use the asterisk in addition to the quote marks. There we go. So yes, you see we have one cell that contains the two characters C3. So I'm going to test my theory here. Let's say I just remove this part of the string. I get rid of my asterisk. So now it'll look for cells that just have C3 in it. Yeah, so now it says 1. Okay, so anytime you're using these quote marks with no asterisk, remember that the cell has to exactly match what you're putting in quotes. But if you're using the wildcards, so let's say we want to count everything that has the word cell in it. So it's going to look for all the cells in that range that have the word cell. And we have 3. So we have 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. And now we have 3 entries with our count if formula. Whereas if we were looking for ones that had the exact information, this is cell C5. Let's see if it'll find it. Yes, only 1. Okay. So that's the count if formula in a nutshell. Very useful if you're tabulating data or you're wanting a formula to search through a big range of information and look for exact pieces of data and count how many times that occurs. This is, just a sample table, so it's information that's kind of meaningless. So I'll show you what that looks like in an actual spreadsheet with real information. So we'll go back to our other spreadsheet here. So let's say I wanted to use the count formula, or count A formula, I should say, to just count how many survey responses I have. So I could just highlight the column A, family name, close bracket, 5. So we have 5 entries, and because it's a small table, we can quickly verify that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Okay. But let's say I wanted to use the count if formula to find how many respondents, so people who answered our survey, were female. So this is where you can use count if. Count if. So we type in equals count if, take our range, so all the people, all the entries here for our gender column. And then we're looking for an exact piece of information. We don't need to find just one word in a whole string of words. It's just one discrete word, and that is female. Okay. Close bracket, see if this works. Yes, so we have 2 entries here that have the word female, exactly. Now, interestingly, if we were to use, let's say we were to use asterisks around the word male, how many entries do you think the count if formula is going to return? Let's see. 5. Okay, because we can see with the asterisk, it's looking for anything, any cell that has the word or at least part of a word that has the letters M-A-L-E, male. And because both male and female contained that string, M-A-L-E, it returned 5 because they all have it. Whereas if I did just mail. Let's see if this works. I'm not sure if it's case sensitive. I guess we'll find out. Yes, it's not case sensitive, but it's looking only for entries that have the exact word mail, and then it returns 3. Okay, so that's a brief explanation of kind of how count, count A, and count if work. For a more in-depth explanation, if you're working on an assignment and you need a little bit of help using those formulas, you can always book a meeting with me or your peer leaders. They've all used Excel before in their assignments, and we'd be happy to help you. Okay, so go back to our slides here. All right. Quick reminder, make sure you're saving frequently. Nice thing about using Google Sheets is it always auto saves, so you don't have to worry about doing that if you're using Google Sheets. On Windows computers, Control F. So now part 3, we're going to talk about making charts with Excel. So in this section, we're going to learn how to create charts, also known as graphs, with your spreadsheet document. So there's lots of different types of charts and graphs that you can make. We'll go through some of the basic ones together. So types of charts and their use. So what is a chart? It's just a way to represent data using pictures. So it's more visually interesting, and you can just quickly see at a glance what that data means. The type of chart you use will depend on the types of data you are trying to represent. So some common types of charts include the bar graph, line graph, pie chart, and the XY scatter plot. And what are they used for? So a bar graph, for example, is used to compare different quantities between groups. So you wanted to compare how many male entries you had in the survey versus female. A line graph is used to track changes over a period of time. That's either most common usage. We've all been seeing lots of line graphs lately in the news when it comes to how they're counting their coronavirus cases. So you'll see a line over a period of time. Pie chart is used to compare different parts of a whole. So percentages. We'll show what that looks like with an example. And then a little bit more complicated is the XY scatter plot. And that's used to compare the relationship between two different things to see if there's correlation or no correlation between two different sets of data. Okay. So to insert a chart in Excel, you have to follow a few different steps. So first you want to highlight the table or the range of cells that contain the data you wish to represent. You want to go to the Insert ribbon tab at the top of the menu bar and move your cursor to the Charts menu. It'll have a bunch of pictures that look like different charts, so it's pretty easy to find. If you like, you can also click the Recommended Charts menu to see if Excel has a suggestion for a style of chart you can use. And then you can adjust the style of the chart to your liking, making sure the data is clear and readable for others. So with all the charts in Excel, you're going to have the option to add a title, label, so explaining what different types of data are, and a legend. So we'll review some examples together. Okay, so I'll go to my basic spreadsheet here. Delete that. And let's say I want to make a chart based on the information here in this table. So I'll highlight the table to insert chart, and you'll see, well, where does it say chart? Well, all these different icons here are different types of charts, and you'll see in tiny letters to make it hard to find. It says charts. So we can pick one. Let's say we want to do a bar graph. There's different types of bar graphs we can use. We'll keep it pretty basic, like this. Okay. You'll see that not particularly meaningful because it's not sure what it should be counting. So the information here is not that useful. But I will show you what that looks like in another document here where it contains information that is useful. Just delete that. Okay. So here we have information that actually means something. So we have a table here of our survey answers from people who answered our survey. And we've gone ahead and made smaller tables based on some of that information. So for example, we have our little table here that pulled information from our larger table about gender of our respondents. So you can see we used formulas to count the number of male and female respondents. And then we have this table. So you can see that the table here and the chart are linked to each other. So anytime you click a chart, it'll highlight what table or what range of cells it's referring to. So this one's based on gender. So it has the gender column, male, female, and then the count, 3 and 2. You'll see our bar graph here shows us how many males were responded to our surveys and how many females. Okay, so I'm going to try making this from scratch so you can see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm going to highlight our range of cells here, insert, go chart. We might try the recommended charts feature. So Excel is pretty smart software. You can even just look at the information you have and guess based on the type of data you're wanting to share, what kind of chart would be best for you. So it's recommending a column chart, also known as a bar graph. But we have other options. We could do a pie chart to show percentage of male versus female respondents, and then another bar chart, this time arranged horizontally. But we'll stick with our column or vertical bar. Okay. So you'll see Excel, based on what's the information that's in this range, creates a bar graph. A pretty simple bar graph. It has, our categories with labels, correct? It has male and female. Title doesn't really match though. Someone reading your chart is gonna be like, well, counting what? What are they counting? So you might have to adjust the title. So we can say male or gender of survey respondents. So respondent being someone who answered a survey. Okay, then you can see we have male and then female. Right now they're both the same color. You might want to change it so it's more visually interesting and you can see that it's two different types of data. So for female, we'll put red. So you just right click the bar that you want to change the color. Then fill. We'll go with red. Oh, interesting. It's selecting both. Okay. Series. Access name. Okay. Sorry, my Excel has recently been updated and the menus are slightly different. But we can change the fill. It's changing both, and I'm not sure quite why it's changing both here. So that's a little strange, because usually in my past versions of Excel, you could just click one and it would change it. Okay, now it's doing it. I'm not sure why it was highlighting both. Okay, so for female, we'll pick this light blue, and for male, we have red. Okay, good. So you can change the color for your different types of data. We have our gender of our survey respondents, and then you can see we have the little circles on each corner and on the sides. And you can use that to adjust the size of your chart, as well as the placement. So we just click here, we can move it around, we can make it smaller or larger. Here. Okay. You'll see as you reduce the size of the chart, it'll also automatically reduce, the measure of how you're counting the cells. So you see it was quite granular before. We had a big chart. We're going into like decimals. You can't have half a person, so there is a way to adjust that, but for the sake of time, I won't show you. But it also automatically adjusts it if you make your tables, or your chart rather, smaller. You see it gets rid of our decimal values for measuring, and it just sticks with whole numbers. Okay, some other types of charts we have here. So this one in the survey, it asked, what was our highest level of education studied? And each survey respondent had to answer. And this is a good way of using a pie chart, because you might be more interested in percentages rather than just the exact number of people who graduated from university versus high school, secondary school, junior college, etc. So here's our chart. It's associated with this table here. And you'll see that we've changed each category to have a different color, and it has a legend. So you see blue, respondents who graduated from secondary school, that's their highest level of education. Junior college is red with 20%. Technical institute is yellow, 40%, that's most of the respondents. And then university is 20%. Okay, so again, if you're wanting to show percentages, what part of the whole fall into which category, pie chart is a great way of representing that data. You'll see here, we can actually change what it looks like by going up to the chart design tab. Anytime you're working with a chart, the chart design tab will appear, and you can pick different options. So I could pick something like this, although it's kind of hard to read, and it doesn't separate the information using colors, so I find it's not that helpful. We could do something like this, and that's fairly legible too. Legible me, you can easily understand what it's showing, but I kind of liked how it originally looked, so we'll just leave that there. So see, we have other examples for wanting, if we did want to count how many people got what credential, we could use a bar or column chart. We can use XY scatter plots to measure how many people are interested in what types of credential. So that could be an interesting feature. And again, when you're asking what credential do we think is most useful, you might be more interested in percentages, how many people answered in what way based on the whole of the survey. And that's where percentages, again, a pie chart is probably most helpful. It takes a little bit of practice to work with charts in Excel. It's a lot of trial and error. So the more time you spend with it, you just fiddle around, change how things look, adjust what it looks like, the style, adjust the labels, the colors. You'll find something that you feel visually represents things well. But especially when it comes to charts and graphs, it's always good to get a second opinion. So if you have a classmate who can look at your chart and say, is this a good way of representing the data I'm trying to share? They can look at it like, yeah, that's easy to understand, or no, I'm not quite sure what you're sharing here. Always get a second opinion, because we know what we're trying to do. The person who's making it knows what we're trying to do, but other people, your audience, they might not be sure what you're trying to share. So it's always good to have someone else take a look at it. If you ever do have questions, you can always book a meeting with me or peer leader, your instructors as well. I mean, they're the ones who are going to be marking your assignments. So if you're creating charts and graphs for an assignment, always going to office hours to get some feedback before you hand in your assignment is a good idea. Okay, so quickly go back to our slides. Almost done. All right. Finally, copying and pasting in the Word. It's very rare in university that you're going to be handing in an Excel spreadsheet. More often than not, you're going to be taking that data from your spreadsheet and pasting it into a document like a report or an essay. So Excel is great for tables and charts, but usually you need to place that chart into a document. This is very easy to do. You just select the chart or table in your Excel document with your mouse and go to the Home ribbon tab and click Copy, or hold down Control-C on your keyboard. Then you open your Word document and place the cursor in the spot you'd like the chart to appear. You can go Edit Paste, or you can click Control-V. And again, I'll show you quickly what that looks like. So let's say we want to paste this graph, highest level of education study, into a Word document. So I'm going to go Control-C for copy. You can also right-click and select copy. Then I'm going to open a Word document. And I'll switch to my Word document here. Okay. Control-V. And you'll see it looks exactly the same as when it was in your Excel document. Obviously, you'll have things like text surrounding it, and you can adjust. Does it go over the text? Does the text go behind it? Probably don't want it to go behind it because most of us want the person reading our documents to read all the text. So most of the time you'll select tight or square, which means the text will wrap around the chart nicely. Okay, so that's how you paste it into a Word document. Pretty easy. All right. Time to save. Remember, File Save or Control S. All right, we're pretty much done with the workshop here. I just want to share a couple of quick resources that might be useful to you. Obviously, in a 45-minute workshop, it's hard for me to go into a lot of depth about different aspects of Excel. But I found this useful website. It's not from UW, it's actually from Algonquin College, but anyone can use it. It's their Student Survival Guide for Microsoft Office. And why I like it is it has really detailed videos that you can watch for Microsoft Excel, but also Microsoft Word and Microsoft PowerPoint. So it has these detailed video tutorials. Most of them are, a few minutes, but some are longer, that explain how to do different things in Excel or Word or PowerPoint. And they also have different versions. So if you have an older computer, you're running Office 2013, they'll have tutorials for that, as well as newer versions of Office. So that's really great. In your web browser, if you have access to Google Drive, you can copy and paste this link. And I have a Google Drive folder that has these slides as well as links and tutorial documents. Some are PDFs, some are websites that explain in greater detail how to use Excel to make charts and graphs. So it's really useful. For those of you who maybe you're in China, you don't have access to Google, I'm going to be posting these slides on the Learn hubs for EFAS and BASE, so the Student Experience Hub. I'll upload my slides there, as well as these other tutorial documents. So don't worry if you don't have access to Google Drive, they will be available there. Those of you that do have access to Google Drive, I will copy and paste this link and put it into the chat box in a moment. All right, so I will stick around for a few minutes if anyone has questions. Otherwise, if you're working on an assignment and you're like, this is going to be a series of questions, it might take 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. That's totally fine. I'm happy to help you, but probably a good idea to book a meeting, which in this case is very easy to do. We have our one-on-one meetup site where you can book a Zoom meeting. So it uses Zoom like this, it's just you and I, or you and a peer leader. and we can go through Excel together. You can share your screen. We can work together to figure out the best way of making those charts and graphs for your assignment. So where do you go? You go to uwaterloo.ca/eli/meet-up. And because we have a couple minutes, I'll just show you what that website looks like. Okay. Hopefully you can see. This is our one-on-one meetup page. So all one-on-one meetups, because we're all online right now, will be held through Zoom. Explains what you can book a one-on-one meetup for. It could be help with Excel, like we've been talking about. Could be Excel help with study strategies or time management, practicing your English, questions about life in Canada, or life in Waterloo if you just arrived, or you're planning on moving here soon. We can talk about that. And then you can book the person you want to meet with. So let's say you want to meet with me or your peer leaders, Roy or Alex or Ryan. You could just click the person you want to meet with. For me, AJ, we'll just pretend we're booking a meeting with me. Click that link, and then it takes you to a calendar page, and you can just click the date or the time you want to meet with me. Say you wanted to meet later today. Click November 2nd and pick a time. Let's say 3:30. Click confirm. Type your name, your email, what program you're in, and then just a sentence saying, I want to need some help with Excel. And then once you've done all that, you just submit it, schedule event. And what's really cool is it sends you an email with a Zoom link and then a calendar reminder for your calendar software, your calendar app. Sends me the same thing. And then 3:30 today, I just open up that email, I click that link, you do the same thing, and we meet through Zoom together. So it's really high tech, really easy. I encourage you to make use of the meetups because your peer leaders and I, we really do want to help you, and we understand sometimes it takes more than just a quick minute to send an email to explain something. Sometimes things are more complicated and you need more time, and that's totally cool. We're happy to help you. You'll see the default time is 30 minutes, but that could be shorter or longer. Don't worry, we will make time, whatever you need. Okay? All right. So like I said, I'll share that link with you here, uwaterloo.ca/eli/meet-up. And then also I'll share our link here for Google Drive folder, those of you who have access to it. Those of you that don't, I will upload this to the Learn Student Experience Hub for BASE and EFAS. But that's all for the workshop today. I will stick around for a minute if you have questions or want to chat. Otherwise, thanks for joining us, everyone. I hope you have an awesome day. Crystal, I'm asking you to unmute yourself.
You hear me?
I can hear you. Oh, you're going back home, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I just decided like a few days ago.
Okay. Are you gonna just relax for a bit with your family? Are you gonna work? What are your plans?
Like I plan to go back to China and then work in China. So I probably won't back to like Canada. Yeah. I don't know because my work permit is gonna expire in like 2022. So yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not sure whether like I can still go back or yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you excited to go back home?
Yeah, but you know, like China released a new policy. Like I need to do 2 tests before I go back. So yeah, and within like 48 hours.
Okay.
I should get the negative result or something.
Oh wow. Okay. So you do those 2 COVID tests?
Yeah. And then self-isolated for like 14 days, and then yeah.
Wow. Well, I hope where you're going has a good internet connection, so you can keep yourself amused. Will it be like a hotel or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
Alright.
I don't know, because there is no direct flight to my city, so I have to go to Guangzhou and then back to my city. So it's like 14 days plus 40 days.
Okay. Okay.
Like
Right.
almost a month.
Right. And your city is right near Hong Kong, right?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. But you can't go through Hong Kong right now?
No, really. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I was just curious because yeah.
Mm.
All right. Okay. So when you said end of the month?
Yeah, at the end of the month.
Okay.
So just not say goodbye.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us today, Crystal. It was nice talking to you. Once you're in China, you can always, we have students join us from China all the time. So
Okay. Yeah,
feel free to
I will
come
check
to
the weekly schedule.
Very good. Okay. Thanks, Crystal. And thanks, everyone else. Have a
Thank
good day.
Hi AJ. Hi AJ.
Bye. Yes. Hello.
Sorry, I just want to grab this opportunity to discuss about the event. You know, I booked an event, one-to-one event to you, but I received the email, but this email has been to the junk box. I find it several days after the meeting, so I just want to say sorry about the meeting. I didn't show up. I know. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Don't worry about it. So we're going to be holding more meetings soon. So you will get a chance
Yes.
to meet. Okay.
Yes.
Um,
You know what? I thought I didn't have the opportunity to catch this Zoom meeting, as I usually have time after 12 after midnight. So as the time zone has been changed, as time in Canada has been changed, so you started actually in after midnight in China. So I have the time to grab this opportunity to attend this meeting. So I have a question. Does other calls of EFAS will change their time, or they stay the same as
uh,
usual?
my understanding is they're staying the same. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
I know that's
Thank
a
you.
pain for you, but
This is
um,
the same. That's good for me.
okay. But yeah,
Okay.
so it should be staying the same. But yeah, if there's any time like I send you like a meeting request and it's not a good time for you, just feel free to send me an email, okay? Or if you're on WeChat, send me a WeChat message,
Okay.
and we can find a different time, okay?
Okay. Here's another thing. You know what? I need to attend EFAS 43, 46, 46. Yes, 46 class this evening. I mean here in China this evening. But I can't log on the website of Learn. It drives me crazy. I took half an hour and then go on. It doesn't work. I actually asked help in the WeChat group, but it doesn't work. I don't know where to find the help of IT, or I actually changed my the browse from Chrome, from something that's developed by the uh, eye and microscope. Both of them does not work. Things
Hmm.
happens like this.
I've heard a couple students having trouble more with internet connection, not necessarily with their browser. Um,
Okay.
I use Mozilla Firefox. I don't know if that's available in China. That's what I use. Yeah.
But
Um,
available. What can check? I use Edge and I use Firefox.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Firefox. Yeah, that's what I use. I haven't tried Edge before. I've told it works, but so why don't you describe briefly what happens when you try to log in?
Sorry, I didn't catch it.
Yeah, when you log in or when you try to
Mhm.
log in, what happens?
Yes. It tells me you just stop the page. It didn't show up. I mean, actually after two pages clicking on, there will be a page showing logging you in. But this time it did not show. It has the page where I input my account and then the password and then just the page. Don't move, go on.
So it doesn't continue on.
Yeah, it doesn't
Kind of
continue.
stuck. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay, that's interesting. Have you met with our program manager, Nella Malakov? Have you met with her before?
Yes, I can, I can tell this information to them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have their WeChat account for Nara. Yes.
Yeah. Because the problem you're describing, I haven't heard of that before. I mean,
Okay.
there's things you can try, like clearing your cache and your cookies and stuff. See if that helps. I know when I've had trouble with websites, sometimes I've had to totally reinstall the web browser. Sometimes that helps. It's a real pain though. It's really annoying. If those don't work though, I would try to meet with Nella. Maybe she could do, because she helps set up the Learn account, right?
Okay.
And the Learn
Got
pages.
it.
And she's been working with students in China for a few years now, even before COVID. They did online classes. So I would ask Nella to see if she can meet with you to try to work through it together. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for your time. Yeah.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye bye.